Schluss to hear the Rosh Hashiva live, the Monsey of Shuvu, Brudny, Shlita.
Bruchim Aboim. Just on 2 points. First of all, the Chofetz Chaim has 3 collection of mitzvahs for a person that obligates a person to be careful in Shmiras HaLashon. The first one is loisases, and he enumerates a list of loisases that not being careful in speech, a person will be over on those loisase. Then he brings mitzvah sases that compel us not to speak Lashon Hara. And the third part is orurs. That an orur that a person will have if he talks, if he doesn't speak properly. Among the mitzvahs asay, he brings the mitzvah of l'dafka boy. The mitzvah being mizdabek b'talmidei chachamim, v'lilmoid mimaseyim. And he says that if a person speaks Lashon Hara and he joins a group that talks about other people improperly, so he's doing the opposite of liyizdabek b'talmidei chachamim v'lilmoid mimaseyim, and he's over on the mitzvah of l'dafka boy. And then he goes on that the mitzvah of l'dafka boy is a Gemara in end of Ksubis. How is it possible to attach himself to the Shechina? The Shechina is an Eish Oichla. And he says, the Gemara says, it means liyizdabek b'talmidei chachamim, to be around Talmidei Chachamim, to emulate Talmidei Chachamim, to learn from Talmidei Chachamim, to copy the anhag of Talmidei Chachamim, to follow in the footsteps that Talmidei Chachamim, and he quotes the Rambam in Hilchos Deis, that's what the mitzvah of the Dafka Boy is. The Rebbe, the Rosh Hashiva Zechet Tzadik V'Kodesh L'Vracha, had a vision. A vision in the Russian Jewry didn't begin 30 years ago. Russian Jewry began close to 55 years ago. It was a process. The Vad Latzola started much before 30 years ago. Work in Russia started more than 30 years ago. In America. But this vision that the way to work with Russian Jews is when they come to Eretz Yisrael, instead of them being melting into the melting pot, Rachmana litzlan, of Israeli secularism, in all its manifestations, let's find a way to grab neshamas. 1, 2, 3, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. V'chulu, v'chulu. And that way, these neshamas are coming back to their source. V'shaftem, isha lachuzasoi, ve'el mishpachtoi. We all went, Eretz Yisrael is where we all come from. That vision, nobody had till Rebbe Zatzal. It was his vision. When we heard it, we were all incredulous, like we saw in the video. But those of us, of his Talmidim, that were Mekayim l'dafka boy, they just marched. Lechtech acharai b'midbar. They're still at it. They're here tonight. They don't sleep, they don't eat. All they totally shuvu, weiter shuv. And those misnadvim ba'am, those that listened to the message of Shuvu, and the message of Shuvu resonates with them, they're doing this. There's no bigger mitzvah than l'dof kaboy. It's being mizdabek in the Shechina Kedosha. It's the highest level. There's Ava, there's Yira, there's Dveikus. Dveikus b'Hashem uvoy sidbok. V'hatem adveikim b'Hashem elikechem chayim kulchem hayom. Joining the Shuvu bandwagon and following these incredible generals is l'dof kaboy. It's the highest level of Avodas Hashem. And honestly, I try, even in the times of where it's real difficult, never to say no to Shuvu. Tonight I have 2 chasanas in Lakewood, obligatory chasanas that I must be by. But I can't say no to Shuvu. I love Avram, I love Rav Yossi, I love Reb Chaim Echol. But if I have to go to 2 chasanas, I could say no. I can't say no. Because they are l'dof kaboy Yidden. And if they are l'dof kaboy Yidden, how could I be remiss? That's why there is no greater avodas Hashem than to partnering this undertaking. And take lebal yidach mimenu nidach, the oivdim be'eretz Ashur, the nidachim be'eretz Mitzrayim. We're so close to those days of Bo v'oyav hayomahu, ubo oivdim be'eretz Ashur v'nidachim be'eretz Mitzrayim yishtachvu l'Hashem b'har hakodesh v'Yerushalayim. That's the general perspective of what you just saw and what you know about the successes of Shuvu, the fabulous transformational successes, but there's a much higher expression to this entire endeavor, and that's l'dof kaboy. When we do for Shuvu, we're following the ultimate Talmid Chacham, the ultimate visionary, and I've said it many times. It took 70 years or 65 years for the Rosh Hashiva to go out of his Besmedrash. It took 65 years for the Rosh Hashiva to leave his Dalet Amis and to go out to solicit funds, to go out and tell people to give money. Those of us who grew up under his tutelage know how deeply difficult it was for him to tell people give money. And then when it came to Shuvu, a transformation took place. Because this is the Chazoin Achrus Hayomim, talking about a Yid that in addition to his Ga'onis in Shasu Paiskim, that you couldn't catch him on an ois of Tanakh. He lived in the Nevi'im Akdoshim, the Nevi'im Rishonim, the Nevi'im Achroinim, the Kisvei HaKodesh. Anything that was going on in the world, maybe Goyal, he was living Tanakh. He was living Yeshayahu, he was living Goshea, he was living the Nevi'im. When he got eloquent in these inyanim and he said over the nevuos of Nehemiah, of Ezra. So joining is l'dof kaboy, is va'atem adveikim b'Hashem u'lechekeichem chayim kulchem hayom. And just one other nekuda. It's very interesting because there was a miracle, because Shuvu took off like a meteor. Shaloi kederech hateva. It cut through the bureaucracy of Eretz Yisrael. It cut through the inertia, everything that stands in the way of any endeavor succeeding there. It just made it. There are times when things are not stable in the way the government operates, that the first victim is Shuvu. Not necessarily out of malice, not necessarily out of disdain. No, the way the bureaucratic setup is, the establishment can't really give too much hurt to an established Torah institution like Chinuch Atzmai, and these kind of institutions that were established way before, many decades before. Shuvu came in as through connecting to this Mosey and having autonomy within a Mosey. When it came that we needed desperately busing for families that can't get to a school, and the only school that's within reach is the secular school. And the only way to make sure, we couldn't have autonomous busing. We didn't have the in with the government at that time already in the history of the state of Israel, where a relatively smaller institution can make free government busing. So the way we were able to get busing is that Chinuch Atzmai, to their credit, made room for us, partially, al kapanim, in their busing budget. But when something like now today, where there's so much turmoil in Eretz Yisrael, and especially the war, that the first victim in the diversion of funds is that diverting funds from religious education. That part of religious education that the government helps, that's the first victim in a war budget, in a war economy. The Chinuch Atzmai will survive this because it's established in law and entrenched in law. Shuvu is basically on the wingtails. It's been coming in of Chinuch Atzmai, and we're hurting. We're hurting that Rachmana Litzlan, we're out of funding for the busing. We're out of funding for open classes. There's not a word of exaggeration in what you heard from Chaim Michal. There are 1,000 kids knocking on the door, 1,000 mishpachas knocking on the door. There are 1,000 more families ready to be Mekabel Mashiach and ready to take away the Choshech. And there's no funding. This is the time. Now is the time to roll up our sleeves and join the Shuvu bandwagon and be L'Dov Kaboy and follow the leadership of our Heilige Rebbe. Soll sicher sein Bekorov, zu Geula Shleima, zu Yeshua Kroiva, should be Shalom and Asati Shalom Ba'aretz. The hostilities should stop. In the immediate time, the people in the south, so many of our students come, the people over the north, so many of our students come from there, should be able to be v'shavu l'gvulam, should be shalom ba'aretz, and b'karev, we should be zeicher to the Geula Shleima b'meheri yameinu.